morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our first webinar Wednesday of 2025. My name is Melissa Pomeroy. I'm with the Cooperative Credit Union Association, and we are very happy to bring you this educational session to share with you one of the programs that we have put in place with a new partner of ours. So just a little bit of quick background. One of the things that we have been working on very hard at the CCUA and that we're happy to bring forward with you is an opportunity for our credit unions to partner with fintechs and organizations that provide very meaningful and relevant products or services to our credit union membership. And we work very hard to identify these partners, and we work very hard to make sure that the partners that we engage with are really able to offer something, as I mentioned, that's very relevant to our credit union industry, and in particular to the credit unions in our 4 states within our membership. So what you're going to hear about today from FiVerity is the Cooperative Credit Union Association Identity Trust Hub. And I think this is a great example of how the power of collaboration, and I don't just mean the CCUA working with our partner, but how credit unions, when they collaborate with each other, facilitated by a partner who is really working for the further betterment of our industry, how that really can move the needle and can really help our credit unions serve their members. So definitely enough from me for today. And with that, Jack, I'm very happy to introduce you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for agreeing to work on this program with us. But more importantly, thank you for being there for our members and to share this with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it. And thanks everybody for joining. The session today is really centered around, as Melissa mentioned, introducing you to this joint solution, the CCUA Identity Trust Hub, but it's also meant to be a discussion about how we can best enable each of you as members of the CCUA to have a deeper partnership with each other when it comes to fraud prevention and fighting fraud. So please keep that in mind as we walk through the solution in case you have any relevant questions or recommendations for how together we can have the greatest impact possible on the challenges that we're facing. I can move screens here. We go. So start things off. The challenges of fraud for credit unions and the industry as a whole are obviously well known. Despite investments in numerous fraud detection tools, fraud groups, policy maintenance, etc., we still see significant fraud losses being reported across the industry. I've heard from multiple financial institutions that they have this feeling of always reacting to fraud or playing catch up. I had one institution describe it as a game of whack-a-mole where they knock out one fraud scheme, another one pops back up. So that constant feeling of playing catch up. And a bit of background on FiVerity. Back in 2021, when we were first creating our AI fraud detection models as a young startup, our data scientists team found that for each fraudulent account that we were able to detect, elements of that fraudulent account were also found on average at 6 other financial institutions. So for us at the time, this was really eye-opening and highlighted how fraudsters were able to take advantage of the lack of communication between financial institutions and their systems, and how they were able to scale and maximize the fraud schemes that they were putting in place. So this finding is really what reshaped our focus as an organization and as a technology solution, and brings us to sort of where we are today. I'm going to walk through a demonstration of the solution in a moment, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but I do want to highlight our mission behind the Identity Trust Hub, and that's to break down those information silos that exist by enabling CCUA members to share fraud information and collaborate in real time while utilizing technology to maximize the impact that type of collaboration has on both fraud detection, but also on fraud prevention moving forward. So it might sound a little bit cheesy or like marketing fluff, but the aim is really to try to create this united front against fraud between each of you and within the industry as a whole. So to just do a quick walkthrough as far as how does it work, how do we achieve this united front? So the solution, the way it's set up, it's connected to the frontline systems of fraud intelligence, systems such as fraud detection solutions, data providers like credit bureaus, dark web data, government data, among others, as well as existing user-submitted fraud data that institutions see themselves, to seed the platform for engagement and day one value. Our AI then analyzes and identifies fraud trends and emerging threats, and alerts members of these potential risks within their institution and within their portfolio. We then provide additional tools for secure, anonymized collaboration on those threats that are impacting the specific institutions within the association, tying them back to the accounts and the portfolios and new applications that they're actually seeing. So the idea here is to move away from sort of the idea of collaboration for the sake of collaboration, but really drive home the impact that it has in fraud prevention and the ROI of the solution. The information also is collected and fed back into this centralized intelligence system that moves across multiple partners and multiple data providers, and updates the models for further enhancement and threat intelligence on fraud prevention. Today, that collective fraud intelligence is being applied across three main use cases. First off, protecting customer accounts and enhancing customer security through proactive alerts on the accounts that are potentially being impacted by the new threats that are being identified through the AI, during account review or fraud investigation, and then also for new member applications to help detect fraud before it makes its way into the portfolio. I mentioned sort of driving towards impact. One of the big challenges that we've always seen from any information sharing solution is what I describe as a chicken or the egg problem when it comes to networks or platforms such as this, where there isn't value until there's engagement. And typically there isn't a lot of engagement until there's value being seen. So the platform solves through this through those connected frontline systems. So on day one, existing users without any active collaboration or information sharing, they're able to see accelerated account onboarding, decreased fraud at origination, faster review times for applications, decrease in fraud within existing account portfolios, and a better understanding of fraud for strategic and policy-related decision-making. Again, really important for us to have that day one value as we move forward to help foster additional engagement and update the models. So at this point, if I can stop sharing and then I'll reshare, I'll actually bring everybody to the platform so that we can walk through exactly how it works. Okay, can everyone, no, that's the wrong screen. Here we go. Can everybody see the feed here, threat intelligence feed? It looks like you are seeing it.
Not.
You're not seeing it. Okay, I have to click share. That makes more sense.
Here we go. Yep.
I think I have the wrong one. Yeah, hold on a second. Right on cue, my dog barks too. Okay, now I believe you're seeing the right screen. Okay, so there's a few things I want to make sure I cover as I walk through the actual solution over here on my other screen. Really what I want to highlight is how those connected systems and the existing data that we've accumulated is able to identify new and emerging threats, how that then ties into active collaboration for the institutions that are being most impacted by those risks, and then how that collaboration then ties itself back to the specific accounts within their portfolio, so that, again, it's all about driving collaboration, anonymized, real-time, secure collaboration into fraud prevention impact. So what you have here, this is a demo environment, but what you see here is an example of threats that the AI is able to detect. We're also using AI to provide additional context and to help drive engagement, to simplify it and make it more efficient. So what you'll see if I dive into a specific example of a threat that's been identified are, and a big piece here, the accounts at risk. I'll go into that a little bit further here in a moment. But this is really important when we look at, or we think about how we might have fraud exist today. And this is a little bit of an issue, but live demos often are. What you'll see is that when we're doing, whether it's an in-person meetup or maybe there's an email chain where collaboration takes place, you'll have a hard time tying it back to, okay, how do I update my policies? How do I find the accounts either at application or within my portfolio that are actually being impacted or at risk because of this threat? The AI and the platform technology does all of that for you. So if we look at a specific risk, and you can see some of the AI context that's being provided based off of all of the data that's accumulated, you can also see how anonymous collaboration takes place, and you can be back and forth. I can type in here, whatever, test message, and it'll show up. I'm just in a test account, so you'll see that it's just, again, it's based off of my profile. There's no PII being shared within the platform or in the application. It all takes place in an anonymous fashion. You also see here we have this FiVerity agent, which can help summarize a discussion in real time and provide actionable insights and recommendations. So I just clicked on Generate Insights. It will look at what information is available on the specific threat and what the patterns show, what the risk signals are, and what open questions there might be, so that people can very quickly collaborate on that specific topic that's affecting their institution. When I dive into see fraud profiles that are impacted by this event, this is the same as going back to the threat intelligence feed, where it was showing which accounts within either ones that are in review at application or within the member portfolio, which ones are potentially being impacted. It'll bring you directly to a filtered view that is impacted by that threat. And then you can select, and these are none of this data is real right here, but you can select what is a fraud profile or a fraud report that is accumulation of all of those different intelligence elements on the profile. So you can see here we have verification data that can be used, whether it's for KYC or being used just to verify that the information is still valid. And it also ties in then the fraud scoring that we'll speak. Right now, our two models are focused on synthetic identity risk and identity theft risk. There's additional models that are being worked on. There's also full transparency into all of the different elements of that profile, as well as plain text assessments that go for each one as far as what it means. A lot of our direct customers that we've worked with, their fraud teams are not necessarily specialists. They're wearing lots of different hats. So trying to understand what a fraud profile looks like can be challenging. So we have everything written down in plain text. We also have a historical component here where any threat that impacts the profile, it'll appear here. So you can see sort of the historical ledger on that profile. This could be things like dark web activity. A social security number was found on the dark web for this specific profile, or confirmed fraud was reported by another member institution. To go a step further as far as making it really easy to understand and to action, again, utilizing AI technology, we're able to summarize the full report into one area that can be easily understood. We'll also create recommendations as part of that. A lot of our customers will use this to basically seed any sort of suspicious activity report or filing. And then we're also, to go a step further, currently, so this isn't live in production yet, but the idea of 314B enabled collaboration on a specific identity, so the identity behind the profile, is also being worked on, so that joint investigations and doing super SAR, so sort of joint suspicious activity reporting, can all be done again within this platform between members, and the intelligence that's derived from that goes to a centralized system, so that every other association, every other member is then benefiting from that collaboration and from that shared intelligence. So the idea behind what we're doing at a high level is really based on breaking down those data silos and enabling faster collaboration and fraud prevention. So I will pause on the demo for a second. We can always open it back up during the Q&A session. I do want to reshare my screen just to talk a little bit about what it looks like as far as the process for us and how we are moving forward. If I open my screen here, let's see. I need this. So if we move on to the member Q&A, actually, yeah, before we move on to next steps, actually, this is the point where I'm looking for discussion and feedback. We'll get into sort of next steps and what it looks like from a member's perspective going forward. Are there any questions that have come up? Obviously flew through the demo, but any questions that have come up so far that I can help answer as far as what we're doing and how we're working together?
Nothing has come in through the chat. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or type something in the chat and we can get that answered for you.
Perfect. Yeah, and a question that typically comes up is centered around integrations and how we work with existing systems or workflows. So I should mention that the platform is all API driven and modularized. So for any use case that a member has, we will connect into that system and provide the scoring back, all of the relevant information, as well as the ability to collaborate directly from specific systems that the workflows are taking place. So members don't have to necessarily move to the UI. For those who aren't looking to integrate and have sort of an automated workflow for monitoring and for account opening, what we also allow for is bulk uploads of customer information, or sorry, member information, as well as application data, so that everything, alerts, monitoring can happen all within the UI, and there's no need for integrations into systems.
Chuck, before you jump on, I have a just a couple quick questions or points I want to bring up. So one of the, I guess, things I just want to mention is we, speak to our credit unions, we survey our credit unions, and we talk even at strategic planning sessions about, with what's the one thing that maybe keeps a CEO up at night as it comes to the performance of their credit union or a strategic plan or initiative for their credit union. It always comes up fraud and security. And I know there are a lot of efforts out there and a lot of programs out there to try to combat that, and probably more than ever. So I guess one question I have is how, you mentioned the day one scenario, which I like to hear. I think a lot of other solutions that I've seen, and everyone talks about the big collaboration, is it's going to take a while before that takes effect. We need it needs to scale to a certain size. I know you guys have been around for a bit, and I'm sure have dealt with that, but kind of how are you differentiated against some of the other tools that are out there? And what would you guys do kind of with that day one scenario?
Yeah, so I think there's sort of a few different buckets that I think about when looking at how we differentiate from whether it's other information sharing solutions or fraud detection tools. And those three buckets are sort of our approach, the technology, and then the impact that comes from points 1 and 2 or buckets 1 and 2. So from an approach standpoint, because we are just a technology provider that is aiming to enable collaboration and information sharing for fraud prevention, we're not trying to create another sort of larger data silo that you might have with a vendor specific, whether it's a fraud consortium or anything else. So what we're doing is partnering with all of the groups that are facing the challenges that come up from fraud and are working to help solve for that problem and provide the technology to enhance it and to put more intelligence behind it. And then we have this hub and spoke model so that, again, any information that is shared between one association or one fraud group, that information feeds the centralized intelligence center so that everybody benefits from it. It's sort of that rising tide lifts all ships. And it's also what helps solve the problem for the cold start problem with the network, where there is day one value if one credit union from the CUAA signed up, CCUA, sorry, signed up and went into the platform and did a lookup on an application that they had in review. They will, on average, we have it's 97% coverage of profiles across the United States already today based off the data. So really what we're doing when we look at the active collaboration that takes place between members, it's sort of a last mile of information and data that gets put in. And it's super valuable. It enhances everything that we're doing. It is what makes the model so differentiated, but we don't have to wait for that type of engagement to happen before we're able to generate value.
And I think that's kind of the key point I wanted to get at. And full disclosure, not my area of expertise whatsoever. Couple things that I heard. We talk about collaboration a lot. Obviously, there's that collaboration component with the credit unions as they identify it goes into the hub, and that benefits the other credit unions that are part of this. But it's the collaboration on the other end, which is pulling in the information necessary to combat the active threats that are out there. And I think that's something that really demonstrates just the evolution of the products that are available, in this space to do that. And one other thing, just before I know you wanted to move on to the next piece, when we talk about the CCUA credit unions, the Identity Trust Hub, we have credit unions that range from the very low single millions of dollars of assets all the way up to multiple billions of dollars in assets. Is it a correct statement, or is it true to say that if I am a $5 million credit union, I can participate in the Identity Trust Hub and benefit from the same level of collaboration and information that a $10 billion credit union will benefit from?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. So one of the challenges that we've heard around other information sharing or 314B enabled solutions is the lack of accessibility, we'll call it, or the feeling like it's not for me, whether it's just the large institutions are only collaborating with each other, or just the amount of time it takes to actually see value and see engagement on a specific task. So a big part for us is that accessibility and making sure that everything that we're doing when working with specific members is ROI focused and priced accordingly for the fraud losses that we are going to prevent together, again, day one, that measurable impact, with more of the collaboration tools and the operational efficiencies that they come being looked at as a little bit as a cherry on top, even though we do value them significantly. We understand time is maybe the most rare commodity, but we do want to make sure we're tying it back to fraud losses. So everything, it's a subscription pricing, and it's based off of asset size, volume of accounts or applications, as well as which use cases a member wants to use. So a member can sign up the smallest institution and just get notifications on the threats that are coming in. They don't have to do any integrations, and we have a price for that's the lowest tier that should be accessible to everyone. And then we go up based off of, again, volume, use cases on impact of fraud prevention and detection.
Great, thank you. I love kind of hearing the different points, and I think it's clear that your solution has evolved quite a bit with some of the advancements that are taking place in the industry. So thank you for that, and I'll let you move on.
Yeah, thank you. So with that in mind, as far as next steps and what we're looking toward as a group, is we're looking to do a public launch and rollout of the hub with the initial group of participating members over the next several weeks. One of those, I believe, might be on the call here today, will include Service Federal Credit Union, who is one of our earliest customers and is participating in the hub as well. Early adopters will benefit from discounted payments and really try to make it as easy as possible to join. We will also give you opportunity to provide feedback and shape the roadmap so that it is as impactful as possible for your specific needs. So we are trying to incentivize those early members. While there is value, we do want to incentivize them further to sort of jump in with us and really buy in on the mission of collective action against fraud and help really shape what we do as a product and as an industry going forward. What you'll start to see, we're rolling out partnerships with other additional associations, another 10 over the next few weeks as well. So what you'll start to see is not only collaboration within members of your association, but also collaboration across associations and groups, as well as across industries, as we are in conversations with associations within insurance and healthcare and some others that really meant to start to drive, again, that collective action across the financial ecosystem, as well as where else it can be impactful. So if you are interested in participating, and this does sound like something that can be impactful for your organization from a fraud prevention standpoint, if you are still incurring fraud losses and feel like you're playing catch up rather than proactively detecting fraud, the ask is just to reach out to either myself or Dean. Have both of our email addresses, although I'm sure you know Dean's already. And we can set you up with a more custom demo, walk through your specific use cases, and figure out, do you need integrations? What integrations do you need? How can we make this work? And then we'll have you up and running. For most customers, once they get through any sort of diligence process, it's about 3 days to 4 days before the platform is live and running and they're seeing value. So please feel free to reach out. We'd love any sort of feedback as well as interest in being part of that public launch that we'll do coming up here.
Great. Any questions either on our program or on the product? And again, feel free to throw them in the chat if you do. In the meantime, Jack, one more comment that I'd like to make is you had mentioned that the CCUA Identity Hub will benefit from other associations, and that is not necessarily credit union associations, but you said other industries as well. And I think the idea that a credit union industry can benefit from some of the intelligence generated from fraud attacks in other industries is pretty is unique. And it's the fraudsters, all of that does not if they're targeting major organizations, it's the same type of target that could then impact the credit union, and that could kind of give us the ability to be one step ahead, so to speak. So, that piece of it, I think, is interesting.
Yeah,
And
to give a specific example of that, so one of the associations that we've partnered with and are rolling out in 2.5 weeks is the Massachusetts Bankers Association. So if a member of that association has a fraud incident take place, whether it's check fraud, synthetic identity fraud, whatever it may be, that can be reported, and every member that joins this Identity Trust Hub will then also benefit from an alert if that if elements of that profile are in their portfolio, or if another application comes in with those elements, they'll be alerted and it'll be detected again across those institutions and across those associations. So it really is a centralized intelligence center, which I think is really important as we look to break down those data silos.
No, it is. And I think typically we like to, pride ourselves as an industry in saying we're not like the banks or the credit union industry, and the way that partners provide products and services and work with the credit union industry is nuanced. We're different. We're unique. In this particular situation, I think it's great that we can benefit from the experiences of other industries as well, especially as it relates to one of the primary pieces of focus for credit unions, which is detecting and mitigating that fraud. So great to hear.
I appreciate that.
All right. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you all very much for for joining and for listening to this webinar. And we again, this is our first of our webinar Wednesdays. We'll have another one coming out in February, and be looking to get some information on that now. So please keep an eye out, and look forward to seeing you back again in a month. And again, welcome your participation in this Identity Hub. We'd love to have a great story to tell and really be able to help the credit unions with this important issue. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. And Jacques, thank you again for your partnership and for being willing to share this with our membership today.
Thank you, Melissa. Really excited for things to come. So appreciate it.